Only with the recent passing of Garry Knox Bennett did I come to understand what a powerful influence he had been on my life, an inspiration for creativity, and someone that just did things in so many directions. It's almost impossible to imagine how one person created so much work. These are 10 things I love about the artist. Garry was so prolific. How many pieces did this artist make in his 87-year life? Certainly thousands. In one particular project shown here, he was interested in a classic modern zigzag chair, and ultimately he made 50 completely fresh rethinks of this iconic piece of furniture. He was an explorer. His work is in an interesting in-between state of art and furniture, and he had a rare ability to move from concept to physical object making. He was always playful, never took things too seriously. He thought about the word table lamp and then flipped it and then made a number of lamp tables. This chair, which is a $5 chair that was very common in the 80s and then didn't last long, it got thrown away. He paints them red, white, and blue, and he ties them together with snap ties, turning it into a sculpture. Garry was a true master craftsman in bronze, metal, glass, any material. I believe these poles are custom designed, cast in bronze. This is, of course, a variation on a tansu chest. And then he also knew how to etch brass, and he drew these beautiful abstract marble pattern designs. This piece just leaves me in a state of awe. He was a renegade. He created a beautiful walnut and curved glass vitrine. There's the curved glass there. A furniture maker friend admired the piece but commented critically that Garry had forgotten to put a knob on the cabinet door. Garry said he'll take care of that, and in a completely iconoclastic move, he pounds a rusty nail and bends it and says, "There's the knob." Bennett came to furniture making by way of sculpture and metalwork, and most of his pieces are rather gaudy. He designed this one to be a refined comment on crafts processes and router bit aesthetics, and from the start planned to make the precious thing less precious by driving a nail into it. He understood art history deeply, and much of his work references artists such as Jasper Johns, Duchamp, and Mondrian, etc. An example is the light fixture that looks like painter's brushes stuffed in a can, which quotes Jasper Johns' bronze. This is actually a bronze sculpture with a number of brushes jammed into an old coffee can. Concept blended with craftsmanship. He made artwork that was functional, at least sometimes, but his primary focus was about rethinking different typologies of objects we use. As he became more known in the art world, he made a series of sculptural clocks. One of the most famous ones is a heart-shaped clock with gilded wings attached to the sides. The perfect title would be perhaps Time Flies. What he said about these clocks was that they were less about helping people to tell the time and more about making people think about the concept of time. He was constantly questioning and redefining what it meant to be an artist making furniture. The common word now is studio furniture, being an American subfield of studio craft centered on one-of-a-kind or limited production furniture objects designed and built by craftspeople. The work is made in the person's studio setting as opposed to being made in a high-volume factory. The concept of the site of production as being a studio links studio furniture to studio art and reflects its status as an individual creative process. From the earliest furniture of the arts and crafts movement to modern-day works of art, studio furniture can be generalized as handmade, functional objects that serve as a medium for intellectual and emotional expression and indicate social and cultural concerns of the maker or community. He broke the rules. He got his work eventually in some very well-known galleries, and typically the gallery wanted an artist's statement, which he hated the idea of writing. After being pursued for a long time, he simply hired 10 writers, had each of them make up a statement about his own art, and then he sent those 10 statements to a gallery and let them pick the one they liked. One thing Garry did say about his background was that my formal training in painting and sculpture enabled me to develop a fairly original approach to my functional work. My preference is to work alone. I do very little drawing with regard to what I make. I will often start with just a line drawn directly onto a wood or metal piece. The pinnacle of recognition in the world of creative furniture makers is to be collected by the Smithsonian Museum. It's an honor reserved for the best of the best, and the Resnick Gallery of the Smithsonian aspires to collect the best piece of any artist that's brought into the collection. And notice the mix of materials: precious Honduras rosewood, maple. This is aluminum. And then I think one of the funniest things is the bricks. And the bricks, look, they're scalloped. They follow this sculptural line of this piece of metal molding. But he also wasn't afraid to use kind of what are regarded as cheap or mass production materials like Formica or color core. Here's a photo of the younger Garry Knox Bennett, and just some links I put in, including this last link to his furniture studio, which is just, again, there are hundreds of artworks that he made, and they are not anything but extremely varied. I hope you enjoyed this short presentation about Garry Knox Bennett.